Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Gehan Cooray. We are at Jetwing Colombo 7, which is one of my family hotels, bringing you yet another episode of Gehan Cooray's Meeting of the Minds. This is a talk show which I'm hosting at the behest of Daily Mirror Online. Daily Mirror, of course, is Sri Lanka's premier English media house, and I'm very excited to have one of my former teachers, actually, Professor Neluka Silva. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Neluka Silva is Senior Professor in English at the University of Colombo and the immediate past president of the Oxford Society of Sri Lanka. She is a multifaceted individual. She was also an actress. In fact, that's how we really got to know each other. Before I had the pleasure of studying under Professor Neluka Silva, who is humble enough to have insisted that I call her Neluka even when I was 17 years old, ladies and gentlemen. In 2005, when my school production of Julius Caesar at the Inter-School Shakespeare Drama Competition won first place, that is in Joseph's College, I'm a Josephian, at the finals, Professor Neluka Silva was one of the judges, and in fact it was she who delivered the results and gave her comments after each performance. And when Professor Neluka Silva announced St. Joseph's College as the victor of the Shakespeare Inter-School Drama Competition, I felt like this wasn't just any victory, it was a truly academic, enlightened, qualified victory because, she's a professor and not just anyone. So the next year, ladies and gentlemen, 2006, as I was about to sit for my A-levels, many of you might not know this, but we actually offer drama and theatre as a subject at the local A-levels. It's a very difficult paper, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9 hours long. There are 3 papers, 3 hours each, 9 hours long. I think physics and chemistry would have been much easier, frankly. The breadth and the scope of the syllabus is such that, I had 3 different tutors. Professor Neluka Silva was one of them. And I couldn't believe it, that an A-level student was studying with a university professor. So to start off with, Neluka, what would you say a judge should really be evaluating at something like the Shakespeare Drama Competition?
So I think the main thing is the way in which Shakespeare has been understood, or the play or any text has been understood. I think in many instances, what I have found with my own experience is that often the directors or the schools place a lot of emphasis on the spectacle, the theatrical effects, yes. Right? In some ways, you can't really fault people because this is for most students, for young kids at school. The Shakespeare Drama Competition is maybe the only theatre experience that they have. And as a result, obviously, they want to make it very memorable. But often what happens is that can be, that overemphasis on the effects can actually mean that it takes away from the actual sort of time invested in understanding the actual play, right. The underlying themes, etc.
Yes.
And often it's very difficult for judges, and myself and colleagues, we've kind of tried to talk about this and impress schools upon this, year after year, where we have said, really devote your energies to ensuring that you understand the whole text, because obviously it's an excerpt,
yes.
And sometimes you get the sense when you're watching it that the students really don't have an idea of the whole text itself,
right.
And they aren't able to really contextualize the excerpt, right. Within the larger kind of framework of the play. And of course, there's there are very, very elaborate costumes and lights and sometimes song, dance, all this kind of thing, which is really lovely. But the actual crux of the play itself, the the ability to actually understand the emotional content of it, to convey the sort of the real sort of depths of the place. All of these factors get lost when there's too much emphasis on the spectacle. So sometimes, you know, as a judge, we've been kind of criticized for giving the kind of the productions which don't seem to be that glamorous, as it were, you know, sort of a winning place. But the point is that it's really the acting. And the other thing that I think as a judge I've often looked for is how the productions have worked as a whole team theatre piece, you know, because at the end of the day, theatre is a team effort. And sometimes what happens is you have a very, very an exceptional actor or actress who obviously, you know, has, you know, star performance quality,
but overshadows
the entire sort of the team, as it were. And the thing is, I mean, this is what when I was sort of doing drama with kids, or, you know, involved, you know, every single actor on stage is important. You know, even if it's just standing and holding a tray for 2 seconds, that is a role which has to be, you know, taken very seriously.
Absolutely.
And it has to be, you know, the director has to sort of direct that role as well. So I think those are the kind of key sort of attributes of a sort of Shakespeare drama production that we have kind of been really sort of interested in and judging, and, you know, kind of looking for, seeking out when we judge. And I think, you know, in today's technological world, it's quite easy to kind of place, you know, pay attention to all the sort of gimmicks and to put in, you know, multimedia kind of aspects and stuff, but not to actually go really into what the play is trying to communicate. The text itself, you know.
And also, Neluka, I think what people don't realize is back in the Elizabethan and Jacobean eras, they didn't have all these multimedia gimmicks, right?
Exactly. So, and you know, when you read Shakespeare or Marlowe or any of the, you know, Elizabethan and Jacobean playwrights, you realize that everything is captured in the language.
Text and the language.
And, you know, because obviously due to the lack of lighting effects or, you know, sound effects or whatever, all of those changes in mood, in temperament, had to be conveyed primarily through the language. So that's why, I mean, you know, the images are so evocative and sensual. You know, the language is incredibly poetic. It, you know, and the poetry, you know, really encapsulates a whole gamut of emotions, of the physical setting, you know, even costume, everything is actually
conveyed through
that and enveloped in the language. So, you know, it is extremely, it is really, really important to really be mindful of the place of language and the text itself in the plays.
And this is a golden opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, for both young and old viewers alike. You're not going to hear from a judge of this repute, should I say, of this caliber talking to you about Shakespeare. Everything she said is the gospel truth, and I think everyone should take it to heart. Children, teachers, parents, listen to this. And why is it, Neluka, that you think A-level drama and theatre, you know, isn't really a subject that many people are aware of?
Well, yes, I mean, I think it's very sad, really. But as you said, there are lots of factors. For one thing, I mean, you know, as you pointed out, it's a mammoth exam.
Yes.
And and A levels, even at the best of times, it's a large volume of work, and students are really most of the time overwhelmed by the
Scope of it.
the scope of the subjects they have to
invest in.
And they have to sort of really be acquainted with. So as a result, I think drama and theatre has become a very specialized kind of subject. And even in schools, it's also difficult for schools to, I think, from my understanding, to find teachers, who have the kind of specialization to be able to
teach that subject.
Both because it also kind of incorporates a practical element as well as a theoretical.
Right.
It's not just theory per se.
Right.
So to try and also find specialists who are able to bring both of those different aspects, the two different halves, as it were, and to transmit it pedagogically.
Right.
It's quite challenging, I think.
Yes.
I mean, even at university level, drama is a subject that is difficult to kind of to teach to students, because ideally these are not texts that have to be studied from the page.
Right.
You should be able to watch the performance
and enact the text.
Yes. And also get a sense of the whole visceral experience
not
of
just
being in a theatre.
Yes.
And it is really it is hard to kind of to get that sense just from reading the text.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying, Neluka, is in a way it was a luxury for me to have studied A-level drama and theatre, and then also to study it at university. I majored in theatre and drama at the University of Southern California, and I also studied psychology and double degree. And ladies and gentlemen, I think Professor Neluka Silva is an excellent person to talk to about just the beauty and the value of academia, because you're so accomplished in that realm. If you could talk about, because I think, actually, we have a cup of coffee for you, because normally I'm a tea drinker and I insist that all my guests drink tea, but as one of my former teachers, I think you have the luxury of a cup of coffee. Yes. Thank you so much. So, actually, while you're sipping the coffee, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present a couple of books which you can read over many cups of coffee in the comfort of your own homes. One of them, so most of them, if not all of them, are written by Neluka herself. This book, The Iron Fence, was shortlisted for the Gratian Prize around 2011, I think. Right?
It was shortlisted in actually 1999, but I published it. As a manuscript. But I published it in 2011.
Yes.
I reworked it considerably.
I see.
Following the advice of the judges' comments from
the Gratian.
And then I published it many years later, because in the interim I had 2 children, my career,
academic career,
everything, and so the manuscript or reworking the novel was the sort of one of the last priorities in my life. But I decided I had to do it. So.
I'm glad you did.
Okay.
I mean, we're so proud of you as an author as well. And, this Eagle Eyes and Other Stories, which you actually, which came about through your work with a young writer's workshop, right?
Yes. So I've been doing creative writing workshops for children since around 2013. And, these were kind of all one-off sort of short-term workshops done during holidays mainly. But I always had a kind of a dream almost. I envisioned working with a group of young kids and actually developing their work. And enabling them to produce a short story, which could then be edited and published.
That's the main thing.
And so that, for them it would be a very precious experience as well. And also to see a kind of a progression from sort of, introducing them to the fundamentals of fiction writing, and then getting them to conceptualize a story, and then to actually craft it and edit it themselves, and then give it to from somebody like myself to sit down and edit it.
Right.
And that's what I did in 2018. I worked with 22 young kids.
How old were they?
Between 8 and 13.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so it was a really, really invaluable experience for me and them, I think.
Right.
We worked together for 6 months, sort of once a month, really. I started off by sort of, introducing them to fiction and the different aspects of fiction, the elements such as, characters, building characters, and creating settings, appropriate settings, working plots out, etc. And then, they kept coming back with this first draft, and kept sort of adding sort of more and more detail into it, and dialogue and stuff. And then in 2018, I worked with one of my former students who helped me to edit this. And that's Eagle Eyes and Other Stories.
And that's really the beauty of it, Neluka, because I remember, the way you get your students to collaborate with you, because in 2006, even Kids at Play, remember, you asked me to help you co-direct a couple of those productions, and you have the most remarkable ability to really stimulate children's imagination, because I remember even when you were working with those kids, it wasn't just getting them to act, but really sparking their latent creativity.
Well, I think it's very, very important to actually kind of activate kids' imagination.
Yes.
Because I think in today's world, everything is about, there's so little room for kids to actually explore their creative talents. They either sit in front of televisions or
the computer,
phones or computers, and everything is fed to them. Whereas, without imagination, creativity, you can't do anything. And what I always say to them is, we use iPads and, the internet, but that was created by somebody.
Yes.
Somebody had the imaginative power to actually, visualize, to put those ideas into science, and whether it is science or anything, without actually enhancing your imagination. And, you can't actually get anywhere.
Right.
And in today's world, it's very sad because in most places, education systems also preclude imaginative sort of powers, because it's a lot to do with rote learning.
Yes.
It's to do with, just regurgitating facts, right? So there isn't any leeway for children to actually go out and explore what's in their minds, and then to actually put that into transform it into either poetry or drama or art or science or anything.
Yes.
And I found that working with sort of the age group kind of 7 to about sort of 13, 14, it's really an incredible age. Children at that age, they really feel stifled because they have a myriad of ideas which they are just waiting to kind of articulate in some form. and you know, something like a drama, the
Right.
drama workshops or the creative writing workshops that I have. I mean, the word workshop itself, you know, kind of denotes the fact that it's a collaborative process.
Yes.
And I am always reluctant to work with you know, scripts as such, because that kind of hampers, stifles them, and it hampers their sort of imaginative power. Rather, I've always worked with kind of devised pieces,
Yes.
where I would, you know, ask them to kind of provide the ideas, and then
String the narrative
yes,
together.
and they kind of, you know, work the trajectory of the narrative,
Right.
and you know, then put it out on stage.
Yes.
And so this was really a wonderful opportunity for me, and I think it really sort of helped the students who are part of this workshop to really feel a sense of astonishment at their own ability.
Right.
You know, to be able to write something.
Yeah.
So yes, that's been a great experience.
And what you raised an excellent point about how even scientific progress would not be possible without the power of our imagination. And I think, Neluka, that age group, you know, 7 to 13, I think that's still an age where you can really mold these children's minds. And you know, I must say my favorite book of all is this one, ladies and gentlemen. It's My Elephant Secret and Other Stories. To put it in a nutshell, it's like Enid Blyton with psychological and sociological insights loaded into all these short stories. Just to talk about a few, ladies and gentlemen, there's one called Google the Three-Legged Wonder, which deals with divorce, which, you know, Neluka, I think it's sad that divorce is something that is so prevalent to the point where people have become desensitized to it. And yet you really explore the impact it has on a child emotionally, which people are very quick to sweep under the rug, you know.
Yeah.
And then one that I resonated with is Locked Out, where you know, it's about a single mother, ladies and gentlemen, a single working mom who is forced to have this conversation with her 12-year-old son when they are locked out of their Airbnb while they are in Italy. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I come from a broken home, as we call it. My parents were divorced. My mother was a, you know, single career lady. And really, Neluka, when I was going through this, it was like you were peeking into my own soul. How do you, you know, come up with these stories which, I mean, they resonate with me. I'm 33 years old. And for you to do this, I mean, how, really?
Well, I think it's because I've been working with children from the, you know, since 2004, you know, with the drama workshops and the creative writing workshops. And of course, my own 2 children, you know, being a mom, a working mom, which is also, you know, quite difficult at times.
Yes.
But when you, you know, have a relationship with young children, when you are involved in, you know, productions, they also open up in many respects.
I think it's because you you provide a safe space for them to open up.
Well, I hope so.
Yes.
I really hope so. But even, I mean, so for one thing, they would share their experiences collectively within the group, but at the same time there were many instances where the, you know, the participants of my workshops would come and speak to me directly. I have had instances where, you know, children would start crying, and when I, you know, and afterwards would come and tell me that they were the victims of bullying, or that their parents were, you know, having problems, were splitting up.
And racism, Neluka, you deal with racism in that book, like the Muslim-Sinhala conflict and all, you know.
So, I mean, all of those things were really kind of, I sort of absorbed all these experiences, and I would listen to them, and in a sense they became, the sort of the ground material for the stories. And also what I realized when I was working with children is what children are interested in. So there's no point talking about nice fancy birthday parties or things like that when
very superficial and silly.
But these are issues which children face, and as you pointed out, I mean, even today, although divorce is quite prevalent in our society, it's still for children to actually openly verbalize their feelings about what they are experiencing. Is something that is still considered quite taboo.
Right.
So
which is so unfair by the children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it is their emotional sort of the emotional content of the whole process, all of those things become quite they are really sort of suppressed. And as a result, kids find it very difficult to actually speak about these. And in a sense, what I was hoping was that by tackling these very sensitive issues in my book, that could actually become a kind of a springboard and initiate a conversation for parents to actually talk to their kids about these things.
Because when a parent perhaps even reads when a parent reads these stories to their children, they're forced to discuss,
and engage with
it.
So I mean, even, and in a sense, it might be a good sort of a starting point to even have these conversations, conversations which, I have to say, are difficult, and as a result, we often shy away from these, because they're difficult.
And I think it's extremely cowardly for the adults to shy away from the conversations, right?
And there are two kind of perceptions. One is, parents want to protect their children 100% and cocoon them in a world where everything is just perfect, right? Which is wonderful, and obviously you want to safeguard a child's childhood as much as possible. But the stark reality is that there's a lot, these are issues that they are having to confront. And the longer you try to protect them from them, the less equipped they are to actually handle it. If either they or their friends, or sometimes their own classmates are, undergoing these kind of difficult times, right? The other kind of is perception that kids, that parents seem to have, is that, they don't need to know about these things, right? Because or we have, it's very, the view is quite prescriptive. We feel this way, so this is what we want our children to feel as well. And often, I mean, the kids who participated in my workshops would tell me was that they would not get a chance to actually express to their parents how they felt about many different parts of their life, not just their schoolwork, but whether it is even questions that they had about the way people are treated in Sri Lanka, say minority groups or different kinds of people. All of those questions were often suppressed. So I just thought these kind of issues, bring it to the table, put it out there, help kids to kind of at least, start a dialogue, even if they don't with their parents, perhaps with their friends, and recognize and identify the kind of critical issues which we as a society, children and adults, are facing today.
Absolutely, Neluka, because, ladies and gentlemen, as somebody who studied psychology alongside dramatic arts, what I always say is, the parents may have their reasons for splitting up, divorcing, whatever it is, but, and however common it may be, you can't explain those statistics to a child. You know, a child does not comprehend statistics. A child does not comprehend the adult's issues. The pain that a child feels is the pain that that child feels. That's all the child knows, you know. And I think Neluka, you know, has provided a means for children to deal with that pain while also engaging their imaginations, I think.
But also, I mean, it's the sort of primary objective in writing these stories was to kind of communicate to children that they're not alone in, you know, in the kind of predicaments they face.
Right.
So that to sort of you know, to enable them to feel that they're not isolated.
Yes.
I mean, the second thing is that I try in a realistic manner to infuse hope into the stories, you know.
Yes.
That at the end of the day, there's a way of always, you know, turning to somebody for help. I mean, it might be a puppy, but the healing is possible.
Like in the Google story, yes.
You know,
healing is possible.
You could talk to your friends. There's always hope at the, you know, and it's just sometimes when everything seems, you know, in a world where you're completely disenchanted and you seem to be
engulfed
in
despair,
pain. And despair.
Right.
That hope is, you know, there is hope and there's help available.
And I think that's an excellent note on which to end this show, you know, that ray of hope and that helping hand which is available if we look for it. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of person that I wish every student gets to study with at some point in time. Thank you so much, Neluka, for doing this.
Thank you, Gehan. It's been lovely talking
to you. Has been.
Yes, I've so enjoyed it.
Oh my goodness. And we'll catch up off camera as well.
Yes. All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and I am so proud of what you have achieved.
Well, you played a small role in that, I would like to think.
It's lovely to think that, you know, I had a part in a small way. So it's, as a teacher, it makes you feel so happy to hear that when your students are doing so well.
And this is the beauty of a student-teacher relationship, ladies and gentlemen. And I wish you all similar teachers. If you're a young viewer, I hope you have the grace to find a teacher like this. And if you're a parent, I hope you do everything within your power to find teachers like this for your children. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.